Hey, what's up, you guys? I am your resident weirdo, Tiara.
And I'm your co-host, Andrew.
And this is Otherworldly Podcast, a show where we talk about all things taboo and you get to determine whether we're crazy. Today is a special day because it's our, as I'm saying this, I don't know if I want this to be like the Halloween episode or the second episode because, let me tell you, so we have a guest today. A very special guest. Beautiful, soulful musician out of Petersburg, Richmond area. His song is going to get stuck in your head once you hear it. But he's also kind of shy like we are. I feel like that's how we all. But yeah, like, you know, and this is why it blows my mind that we learned that you have knowledge of all things otherworldly. Yes. Everybody, please welcome Chris Matthews to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. You are basically the co-inspiration for this podcast. We have been talking. Yeah,
that's how we basically came up with the idea of talking to Chris.
Right. Yeah. I feel like we were talking about it for years. We should like do this. But then when we've been here, like I feel 2 times maybe, and every time we started talking about aliens or otherworldly things. Right. But the last time we were here, I was
it got deep.
Yeah, I was like professor? I told you, I was talking to my coworkers like I was saying earlier. Like I think we talked for like 3 hours the last time.
Yeah. I didn't want to leave. It was like, like I need to get a book and write some of this stuff down. Like you even gave me a book, so like. Yeah. Well, thank you, by the way. It's like at my nightstand. Right. I read like 10 pages.
She's going to read it next year, probably.
I feel bad. I just started.
Exactly. I have like a pen and like 10 different books that I've started and just, it's whatever. But so tell the people about yourself, you know, other than otherworldly things. Tell them about you just regardless, like, who were you as a little boy?
Like you said, I'm from the Petersburg area, born and raised. Music has, always been at the forefront, since I was a kid. From my brother teaching me how to singing with my mom and my grandma, at like choir rehearsal and stuff like that. So, music has always been there. So, and just growing up and, picking the guitar up and in school, I used to write poetry and creative writing class, so then like tying that all in and starting to write my own music and stuff like that. So that's really a big part. But I'm just country / kind of city guy, just but as far as like the paranormal stuff and like UFOs, like man, I try to like really remember like how I got into it. I guess like different TV shows and movies. But there was this one movie and I can't remember the name of it, but I think it was like about abductions and stuff like that. And I remember this one scene, this guy was like walking into a lake or something, but it had to do with like UFOs and all. And I don't know if y'all seen like Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I watched it or did we. You might have got abducted while watching it because I know the name, but I don't remember watching it.
It's not ringing a bell like the movie itself.
And like the ship played music, and then like the people were like studying and stuff like that. And
I ain't see that. I need to watch it.
No, it was good. But so like just like Bigfoot and Loch Ness and
like the creature
cryptozoology, all that type stuff, it's always been fascinating to me. So yeah.
What, when we were here last time, you were showing us like comic book type of books that you had, like collectibles basically. I remember there was like a Bigfoot one.
Yep.
I don't even know how to describe them. They were like cute, but also like this was like a really
It's almost like one of a kind books. Like it's like only a couple
and I think
copies.
they're geared towards like kids, kind of like and it really like set my signals off, at that age.
So it was the movies that got you into it, or what? Did you have personal experiences that were like?
Not really. When I was a kid, I don't know. Like, shows. I don't know if you've ever seen Alf. Alf was like an alien that lived with the.
Did he have like a weird snouty type?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't
and he was an alien that lived with the family, and I'm trying to think like what else. There was some other shows between. I know Unsolved Mysteries. I watched Unsolved Mysteries a lot, and I think that probably had a big part. Yeah,
I mentioned Unsolved Mysteries in our first episode. There was just this one episode that scared me to death, and like I said, I was a kid, and it was the sketch of the criminal. But I swear he looked like Michael Myers. Like, it was just... and to this day, I can't find the episode. I was trying to face my fears and, like, watch it.
Watch it again.
But I can't find it.
You probably could find it on YouTube.
Right. It was awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I know what you were saying.
No, go ahead. You can...
No. I'll just say.
We're here to listen. Yeah. Really. Like, I told you, I'm really excited about this episode.
And you know, like, we talked before, and you're like, you know, man, should we do this? And, you know, my friend or my family might feel some type of way. Or,
right.
You know, I just feel like something's out there, you know what I'm saying? Especially
for sure
when you talk about UFOs, and then even now with like the government getting more open with like releasing information and stuff like that. And I think that's really interesting.
It's funny because we've seen so many things like before the government released the statements and stuff like that. But I don't know, it's like this entertainment aspect to it where you're like, I want to tell people, I want people to see our videos, I want people to believe us. And nobody would believe you. But then as time went on, I started to feel like maybe it was more like a spiritual thing that was happening with like these sightings versus because it happens all the time. We see it, but then when other people don't see it, I'm like, it's in everyone's sky, but for some reason we see it at that time. So
like we have like the CE4 meditation where people like.
That was my shoe, y'all.
Nice leather boots. Where people have like reported seeing like entities or ships, you know, like
you said it was meditation.
Yeah, like groups of people, like even just like the three of us, could like sit there and like meditate, like on, I guess, where they are and like welcoming them, and you will eventually see. Like I actually saw they had a news report, and this guy was. I don't know if it was somewhere in California or somewhere. And this guy, he just like a regular guy on the street. He was like an older black guy. And go figure. So, and he was in the field, and the reporter was like sitting there, okay, so like we have this thing going on. He was like, oh, I feel you. He was like, oh God. He was like, they're here. And like the more he was talking, like I'm shaking now. It's crazy. So like, and you saw like these orbs started like flying overhead. You know what I'm saying? So it is a spiritual thing as well. Yeah. But I feel
like the group thing. It was a girl, and I feel like they had a group somewhere, and they were conjuring up UFOs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember what we were watching, but that must be one of those meditation group things.
I'm trying to remember as well. They were talking about like they were seeing like beautiful lights in the sky, kind of made shapes and stuff. They were talking about like seeing beautiful like shapes and. Not hieroglyphs. What is the word for like those pretty colors, like unicorn colors? I can never think of the word.
I about to say like, Roy G. Biv.
Yeah, like things like that. And they would just have like meditation circles and stuff. Yeah. It's so funny. I remember talking to somebody about meditation, and I was telling them that sometimes I'm afraid to quiet my mind because I'm clairvoyant, so I'm able to see and feel and hear things, right? And at a time. It was like out of my control. Like things would visit me, the good, the bad, the ugly, the scary. So I'm like, I can't sit and meditate and open my mind because I don't know what's going. Like I'm terrified to see what's coming.
Or maybe you should try sound meditation too. Yeah, like you can focus on that mind on that sound.
Yeah. See, that's a good idea. I should try something like that. I feel like I've started meditating in like a different way, but like the idea of sitting there and like.
Or even like meditating in the woods. I really want to get into that too. Yeah. Like out in nature.
Yeah, I feel like if we have like a good set of people with us or, like in a controlled environment, if we do anything, But so you said you didn't have any experiences as a kid, but like as you got older?
Yeah, and then I was so heavy into it as a kid, and I was like, oh man, like when I see my first UFO, it's gonna be and it wasn't even that, and even you would mentioning like seeing things, and I remember like I don't know if y'all experienced, like when you were a kid and laying in bed and like it would seem like a dream, or like little things would be floating around the room. Where I know like now that I think about it, I'm like, man, could that? Because I feel like children are more sensitive to you know, the unseen than you know, adults. But you know, like you said, you're clairvoyant yourself.
Yeah. Well, when I was younger, it was way more vivid. I feel like as I got older and it became more of a spiritual thing, and it didn't feel like a haunting, things kind of slowed down. You know, like in the 70s, everybody was like ghosts, aliens, cults, and then when we get older, that stuff doesn't exist. And I was like, dang, where are our Phoenix lights at? You know, like, but
they're there. You have to feel. Oh my God, it's crazy you said that. The Phoenix lights. I was just watching something about that.
Oh, what were you watching?
It might have been something on YouTube I was looking at, or like a documentary. It was talking about the story about that.
That was one of my favorite.
Like how it was flares, but that's not flares.
Right. Yeah. I thought you said you didn't believe in the Phoenix lights.
No, I did. I don't know.
Oh, you said the Battle of Los Angeles.
I can't remember what era that it was in, but yeah, I didn't believe that at all. I feel like it was a.
You don't believe the Battle of the.
No, not at all. It seemed very Hollywood to me,
because they supposedly they have a picture of it with the spotlights.
Yeah, and I saw that, and I was just like, I feel like it was in a way to try to, since you know UFO sightings and stuff like that had become popular, and I feel like it was a way to try to scare people. You know, put this idea out there that it was something bad and something. You know, so I wasn't feeling it. So,
but yeah, so it was December 5th, 2015, and I think I told you guys about this when I was living in Richmond, because I was living in Henrico. And that was a Friday. It was Friday night, probably about 7:30, 8, because I was still attending church down here. And we were getting ready for like the Christmas concert and everything. So I was late for rehearsal, and I was like rushing. And I went through downtown, and it wasn't cloudy at all. And I was like driving, like trying to beat the traffic and stuff. So by the time I got on 95. So you know how like Philip Morris did like the building up for Christmas and everything, and it's changing back and forth, and the lights are flashing. So like by the time I'm going 95 south. So by the time I get there to that area, I see something in the sky. And normally you're like, okay, well I know me because I'm a sky watcher myself. Like even if there's like a comet. If they say it's gonna be like a meteor shower, I'm there. You know what I'm saying?
I will fall in a hole because I'm constantly looking up at this.
Right. It's so humbling. But so it's like, you know, I see something. It's like I'm driving. Okay, so it's like probably a helicopter or something, because I don't really pay that much attention at first. So by the time I get closer to it, I don't think I really realized at that moment when I first saw it that it was hovering, and it you know, it wasn't moving. It was probably about I guesstimate it's probably about the size of like a van, and it was like tree line.
That's
like,
crazy.
It wasn't that high, and like I said, it wasn't cloudy. So I'm seeing these lights. So by the time I'm getting closer, I had a sunroof in my car, and you know, it just so happened it was open. Well, not like open, but you know, I could see through the glass. And I looked once I was under it. And it was almost as if you took two sets of traffic lights and put them together like a rectangular shape.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, so it would be like 6 lights, you know, a set of 3, you know, beside each other. And like 3 on one side were like all red. And these were like these big round bulbs. So one set of 3 were red, and the other set were all white. There was no flashing lights. And I'm telling you, this was there. And I so wish I got off on like where Bell's Road is, because I could have got kind of on that road in front of Philip Morris to get a better look at it. But I got a good look, and it was smoke coming out of it, and that's why when I always say it was not a cloudy night, but it wasn't that high either, you know.
Yeah. And
it was smoky, and I'm like, what is this thing? So like, even in that moment when I looked through my sunroof and looking at this thing, it's like I can't really explain it. It wasn't like excitement. It was excitement, but it wasn't. It was just like a numb feeling. Like,
right. You always think it's going to be like this. Wow, what is that? Like usually when we see like we call it like the stars like that move in the sky. Yeah. It gets us, but then
it's like a normalized thing. Like we don't feel like it's weird.
Some experiences that we had like when we saw our star sisters on the front porch, that was different. It was just like, oh.
Was that when you guys got the video?
Yeah. It was like, wow, this is happening to us. But we just sat there and, looked at it because it felt normal, like it was supposed to be happening to us.
Maybe that's what it was, or do you think maybe it's like a natural response that your body goes through? Like, okay, like, yeah, like you said, like this is normal, like maybe a subconscious thing, or.
You know what? You'll never know. Because we've had, so there was one experience where we never sit on our front porch. The way our house is set up, we always go out on the carport, get in the car, and leave. We never sit on our front porch because we're like awkward people. So we don't want our neighbors to know us. We don't know I have no idea what our neighbors' names are. That particular day, we sat on the front porch. And like I said, we were constantly like stargazing, like, wow, did you see that? We've seen like helicopters escorting UFOs and stuff. We've seen some crazy stuff.
I forgot about that one.
But this particular day, when we sat on the front porch, I happened to look up and I see like this orb in the sky, and it's broad daylight. There were clouds out, but it wasn't like huge clouds. It was like a beautiful blue sky. And I see like this orb. It kind of looked silverish, but also white. And then the more you looked at it, it kind of looked like a peephole, like if you're looking in a peephole of like a door and stuff like that. And so I point at it, I point up, and then he's looking, and we're like, wow, like what is that? Trying to debunk it. Is this a drone? It's because there are drones everywhere.
And this when I tell you this was 2015, to this day I'm still
right. It's like is it what it is? But like the more we watched it, I feel like there were like 2 or 3 more.
Yeah, it was. I think it was. Yeah, I know for a fact it was 2 more after that, so it was 3 in total.
Yeah, and they like you said, they were hovering. They were just sitting there.
Saw black, looked like smoke. Like
like you said, it looked like smoke coming out of them. But we were just watching, and we were like in awe. Like it just felt like it was. Like to this day, I feel like it was like our future selves. To be honest, like we were it just
it's oh my God, that is so crazy you said that. No, because I was always like, if it wasn't another country. And if it wasn't someone or something else from outer space, maybe it was us from the future.
Right. Yeah. Like, because think about it. You were probably the only person who saw it. Like
no, this was Friday night, and there was people going all the way up. So you think maybe like other people couldn't have seen it?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like it was like meant for you. We see crazy stuff in Richmond all the time. It's mind-boggling because the sky is lit up by like the street lights and stuff. We saw like a plane stalling in the sky, and he's a debunker. So he's looking up on YouTube like, can planes just sit in the sky? Is it a normal thing?
The ghost plane.
Yeah.
Right. Like you've seen the YouTube, right? And it's just sitting in the sky.
There were videos of planes sitting in the sky, and people were in the comments, and they were like, this. I've seen this and still don't know what it is, and people were trying to explain what it could have been. But
so you guys saw that?
Yeah, it was just sitting in the sky. Like you could see it turning. But it was just like sitting there, and we proved that it had to be sitting there because we saw one in the same area, and it was moving. You can see it moving, to go to the airport, I guess, over there on.
And it was.
It was just sitting in the, and like it would occasionally like turn on its side and stuff.
So were y'all driving?
Yeah.
So did you ever see it move, or do you just pass and you can see it move?
The whole time we were driving, it was just sitting there, and I'm like, you would think that it was in the news because this is kind of crazy, like to see this plane stalling. But every time we see weird stuff in Richmond, nobody says things about it. So I start to feel like maybe when these moments happen, like when you saw your UFO, it was meant for you because the way that you describe it, like you said, it was in the tree line, and it wasn't reported. So it's like maybe it was.
Yeah, sometimes on the news you get little stories like there were lights seen.
Right. A couple years ago, when the light moved across the moon, that made the news. Everybody was like, "Did you see that star move across the moon?" Yeah. But like, that sounds incredible.
It was. Yeah. I'm so like I wish. Like I had a picture, but I even like draw it.
Yeah.
Like it was wild, but it was interesting. Really.
So like, did you tell people, or did you feel like it was like your? Okay.
I still tell people. I know a friend of mine, her boyfriend was in the military. So I kind of mentioned it. Yeah. And then there was even another time when my mom was with me. That's what this one was kind of better. Because I had somebody else. You
saw it again?
Well, no, it wasn't the same object, but it was something else. It was like a group of objects. Because actually, I had a show one night, and I was singing, and it was Tayshawn and some other people there. I think we were supposed to go to Jamil's house.
Okay.
And I decided to leave. So I was with my mom, and we went shopping with the Gabes in Colonial Heights. So when we came out, there was like these probably about maybe 8 or 10 lights, and the only way I could explain what they looked like, it was like the flame at the end of a candle.
Yeah. Oh.
And it was like about like 8 or 10 of them, and they were all over. So at first, it was kind of like, oh, what's that? But it was like, I'm still putting bags in the car.
Yeah.
So then I look back, like literally 2 seconds. Like I put a bag in, look back, and they were all in a straight line.
Oh man.
So I'm like, what is that? So I'm looking at it like, Ma, look. So like I'm locked in, like, and I'm looking, and so like they were in a straight line 1 second, then they were like dispersed again, and they were all over. So then we got in the car. So as we're driving, 2 of them were like about to crash into each other, and literally as they touched, it was like, and then they both went in opposite directions, and they were like doing all these weird stuff, like blinking in, blinking out. For like 15 in Colonial Heights, like literally behind the Gabes, like the shopping center and everything. Yeah. So the crazy thing about it, my mom was like, we always talk about like ancient aliens and stuff, like, because we were watching TV and stuff. And she was like, oh my God, what is that? But then she was like, no, it's a plane. Then she was like, oh, look at that. And she was like, wait a minute, is that a helicopter? Like literally, this was her, And then she was like, what is that? Oh my God, look, that's about to do that. Or, and so then they disappeared maybe like 10, 15 minutes later.
Crazy.
But yeah, man, something's out there.
I really think about what happened after we recorded the first podcast. Well, while we were recording, and then what happened after.
Yeah, like during the podcast. Yeah, you were telling your UFO story about the lights that you saw, and like right beside the car, there was this beautiful bright amber UFO just like floating across the sky. And sometimes, like you said, we gotta rationalize it. So I'm like, is that an airplane? Because sometimes it's bright like that, and then it went out, and then that was it. But then after
outside the house,
no, so we were parked at a park, like this local park, because we wanted to keep it like spooky. I like saw shadow people at that park. I was like, let's just sit here.
It's also a spot where we used to hang out all the time to look for UFOs because it's such an open sky. So, so we left. We got on the road, and we were driving, and I happened to see this bright light, and you know how you can see like the planet. Right. I don't know what planet it is.
It's like Mars, I think.
Yeah, it's really bright. So we could see that sitting there, but we saw another one to the left, like moving towards it.
Oh wow!
So we were driving, pretty bluish color.
Yeah, and we were like looking. I'm like, wait a minute, that thing's moving really fast because it was like flying towards the other one. So I was like, is it 2? It was like, no, it's 1. It's going like the other one is stationary. So we were driving, and it was a car on my tail at the time. So I was like trying to look and trying to swerve. And they were like, probably thinking this man is going to be drunk. But, so we were looking at it. It gets towards, we're going to say Mars. And then all of a sudden, it drops straight down. Like, just drops straight down
like
at an angle.
Like behind the trees,
Yeah, and it got to, like, the top of the trees. And it basically looked like it stopped. And then it started going back in the opposite direction, but slower. It was crazy. So I went up the road and let the car pass me. So I turned back around and it was still there, and it was just like slowly moving across the tree. So we went back towards the area where we started because it was an open sky. By the time we got there, it was only like a half a mile. By the time we got there and looked up, nothing was there. It was crazy.
That's crazy. So this was after, I know y'all said you saw the lights, and I think you said you got kind of like a headache or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that's
that was after the ones we saw during the daytime.
Right. So like to go back to what we were talking about, it not being a wow factor, like wow, this is happening to us. So that day when we saw the orbs in the sky, the beautiful blue sky, we're like, wow, this is one thing. And then right after that, I had a negative reaction. Mm-hmm. We saw the amber lights, and it was like 2 or 3, I believe.
It was 2 at first, and then all of a sudden the third one appeared, and they were just moving across.
Right, and so like with this instance, it wasn't like, oh wow, that's happening. Like we were like chasing them, like we were driving down the back road and stuff, hoping we don't hit a deer. And then we get to like this clearing. It's like we live out in the country, so like there's like this beautiful clearing of like just nothingness, just like grass, and then they have like these 2 barns, these gray barns. So we get to like the gray barns, and we see these amber lights, like they're starting to like fly over us, like they're coming closer to us. He gets out the car to like film it, but I didn't feel right? Like now I'm thinking it's like intuition. I was just like, I don't want to get out of the car. I don't want to film it. So I'm just like watching it with my eyes. And like usually, like what we did with the other lights, our star sisters, I'm like, I want to film this. This one, I was just like,
I love that you call them star sisters, by the way.
I was like, I just want to kind of watch this.
And to mention, I put up my phone to record it, and it was a clear night, and they were really bright, and they were like right above us, and I was trying to record it through the screen, but you couldn't see anything in there. You could see the stars and stuff, but you couldn't see the red lights. But
right, and as they were coming closer to us, I got this like intense like headache, this pain in my face and my head. Like it was kind of unbearable. And I know that I mean I get migraines, but this was just like really random, really weird timing, and it was just like I'm like feeling physically sick
as you were looking at
I was looking at them. Yeah. So then they take their course. I think they like phased out. And then you get in the car, and as we're leaving, as soon as we get away from that area, my headache is gone. And I was like, that wasn't, unlike our star sisters, that wasn't for me. That didn't feel like either that or like it was like a really strong download that was happening, and my body couldn't take it.
But let's not forget to mention the colors, because they were like red. That was my first time seeing ones like red.
You're right.
I was thinking about colors and what they mean, and like the different messages, because I remember your mom saying something about she saw a green.
Yeah, and then I hope I'm not offending anybody. I feel like in like Native American tribes, they believe that green stood for like health and healing and things like that.
Yeah, like the chakra colors.
Huh?
The chakra colors.
Oh yeah, right.
As well.
Yeah. Right. She was she got sick back in like 2014, and it was really random. We still don't know what happened, but she was hospitalized and she was on dialysis, and she remembers like she felt like she was going out, like she was about to go meet her maker, and she was looking out the window and she saw these like green orbs. They were like in the window, and she was like, I'm ready. And they're like, no, you're going to be okay. You're going to feel better. Just like tough it out. But you got more work to do here on this planet. And then she got better. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's those are the beautiful stories of like seeing things like that. Because I know that we all talk about scary things and things that go bump in the night, but there are nice, beautiful, spiritual things that happen.
Definitely. Just like two you guys were saying about Hollywood, and then movies and stuff sometimes paint a bad picture.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Like every doomsday, I remember when I was a kid and you had like 2012 come out, The Day the Earth Stood Still, The Happening.
Oh my gosh.
People hate The Happening. I was like, first of all, that was a masterpiece, but it scared me to death. I was like, not the trees, y'all, the trees.
Oh yeah. But like I love M. Night Shyamalan movies.
Yes, that movie was amazing. So So what's like a story or like a happening that like stuck with you? Because like I said, when we were here last time, you were just like spitting knowledge, like the Gulf Breeze incident. You were talking about the kids in Africa. That's all I was like, wait a minute. But children. Like what's one that like sticks out to you?
So there's something that I learned probably within like the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. The Dogon tribe.
I'm sorry?
The Dogon tribe. Dogon. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Y'all need to write this stuff down?
Right. I'm telling you for real. Because there's some information. But so they're out of Mali. So they originate from West Africa. And they also have lineage in Egypt as well. And they have a legend that talks about the Nomos race. And this is like, these are amphibious beings that are depicted as like mermaids.
Oh, yeah. We saw a sculpture in the museum recently in like the Native American area of a mermaid.
Really?
A mermaid, yeah. And I was like,
And that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because it says that these, I guess, I want to say people or whatever you want to call them, this Nomos race, they're also found in Babylonian, Akkadian, and Sumerian text as well. So they visited them. It says they visited them in 3200 BC.
The mermaids?
Yes, the Nomos visited the Dogon tribe in Africa. Okay. Mm-hmm. From a planet in the Sirius star system. And they talked about, so Sirius A, just a little back information, Sirius A would be the brightest star in our sky, the North Star, I guess you would say, right. So they came from the Sirius star system, and they visited them. And it says that they landed in an arc, a large spinning arc, and they landed towards the ground with a loud noise and a great wind. So they visited them, and then it says that the Nomos told the Dogon about Sirius A. So this was over thousands of years ago that they had this information, and Sirius B orbits Sirius A. So Sirius A is the North Star, which we can see, but Sirius B we can see from here, but Sirius B we can't see.
Okay, so
right.
I'm learning something.
Yeah.
I'm like
so
rooted. I'm like,
this is really cool.
Yeah.
So you can't see these things. They're there. You can't see Sirius B. Sirius B is a little smaller. I guess you would refer to it as a white dwarf star.
Okay.
So then it has like a 50-year orbit around Sirius A, and it's spinning on an axis. So like, you know how the planets orbit the sun, and they spin on their own axis. So it does that. And it's, so like I said, it's invisible to the naked eye. So the Nomos race, they also told the Dogon of what happens in our own solar system, and they talked about Jupiter's major moons and Saturn's rings, and also how our planets orbit our sun. So they had a knowledge of our own solar system, and this is thousands of years ago. You know, they didn't have any type of modern technology.
So we think.
And I say that as well, because even the Egyptians, the pyramids of Giza are lined up.
With the Orion's
Orion, Orion's belt, right? So I do believe that they may have had technology that was lost that we don't know about. This in this time.
I don't know what I feel anymore. I felt, I guess, as you get older and you're learning in the history books that, they write to make themselves look good. Had to put that in there.
Right.
When you're learning the history books, it's like, chronological order of things. But nowadays, like on this spiritual journey, I feel like we're all living in the past, present, and future. And the technology that they have is a technology that we have now, because it's all happening at the same time. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
No, it makes
sense. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like, of course, they had modern the technology we have today, because they're living today, and we're also living then, and it's all just kind of convoluted within each other. Just like when we saw our star sisters and whatever orb or reality that was, I feel like if it is us that we saw, that we felt so close to, it doesn't necessarily mean it was like in a distant future. It could have been in the past as well, or happening at the same time in a different reality.
It's like when they found the hieroglyphs of a picture of a helicopter, what looked like a modern day helicopter to us, on the hieroglyphs. And I'm just like, that's like,
even they found an artifact in Egypt. It was like a bird, but when they made a life-size model of it, it was aerodynamic. It could actually fly.
Wow.
So they were masters in like science and math.
Right.
So
that's how they design big trucks now, like the way like the hoods and stuff are curved to be like aerodynamic. So that's crazy.
What do you mean?
I don't know if it's a fuel efficient thing, but it helps cut through the wind better and save. They design it in a certain way, so that makes me think like in Egypt, in that time they were already doing that. So
right.
That's crazy.
Like they were already like sailing the seas. Like that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah. I mean, we could get into look, because we took my mom to the museum this past weekend for like her, because we were planning a surprise party for her at her house, so we had to take her out as they were like getting the house together. We've been to the museum 1,000 times. I love it there. I wish I could move in, because every time you go there, you
VMFA.
see. Yes. Every time you go there, you see something different. So this time when we took my mom, she was walking like incredibly slow, which she should. This is her first time being there, so she's like reading everything. She's like, "Wow, what is that?" But we get to the Egyptian area, and first of all, there's this man in there like overcompensating his knowledge of reading hieroglyphs. He's like, I don't know if he's with his girlfriend or if he was trying to hit on her, but he's like yelling like, you need to know what this so we're distracted by that, right? We get to like this one coffin. He's like right beside it yelling hieroglyphs, and we get to this one coffin, and it has like burned a hole in my whole existence. I'm trying to figure it out, because for the longest time they were telling us that, quote unquote, we were, we evolved from monkeys. And that's like a more scientific thing. And, call it what you want. Then now people are saying the Big Bang Theory and all this other stuff. But then as we go into like DNAs and stuff, we realize that that's like probably not all of the truth. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at this this coffin, and I don't read hieroglyphs. And for a little backstory, I grew up in a Muslim household. So the Quran, like the Bible, you're supposed to read it from right to left. Like instead of from left to right, you read it from right to left. Right. So my mom was like, try reading it or try looking at the hieroglyphs from right to left. So from the right side, you see like this deity is all I can. That's the best way I could describe it. It was like a holier looking type of image. It was like a bald entity, and he had like a halo type of thing over his head. And then after that, you see these hairy like beings. They were like pale hairy beings. Then after that you see like the first Egyptian man, then you start to see the Egyptian gods. So I was like, wait a minute, is this saying we evolved from monkeys? But then the more I started to look at it, I was like, wait a minute, okay, all right, y'all, like now I'm going crazy. Maybe
we came from somewhere completely different.
That's what I'm thinking, because so I was like, Ma, I don't think I'm supposed to read it from right to left. I feel like I'm supposed to look at it as a photo. What the hieroglyph looked like, you had the deity facing the right, and then he was like a paler skinned deity or whatever, and then you had the pale monkey creatures facing the right, and then you had the Egyptian people and their gods facing left. Like it was like a meeting ground. I forgot why I brought this up, but I just had to get this off my chest. And it was like, so it was like, whoa, like is this telling us like an early depiction of us coming from different planets, different creation stories, different. Oh, baby.
Oh, he might do the thing. My chinchilla's having a party.
Yes, he's got the cutest chinchilla in here. But I was like, it was blowing my mind. Like the last time my mind felt like this is when I watched Midsommar, and I just kept thinking about all the different things. Yeah. But like that's crazy to think. Like, how do you feel about that? The idea of us coming from.
It does run through my mind, and like I talked about watching Ancient Aliens earlier, and it kind of sparks your ideas too. But it's funny you said that, talking about like the Egyptian gods, because Isis is depicted as a mermaid sometimes. It's like this Nomos race. Wow. And she's also associated with the Sirius constellation. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well.
Yeah. So like, do you? But you're a Christian, correct? Or?
Yes, I do consider myself a Christian.
So like, how does that coincide with like your beliefs in these otherworldly things? Is it conflicting? Because I know when I was growing up Muslim, like this is not a thing. Like it was supposed to be fantasy and nothing more, nothing less.
I don't really believe so, because even in like a lot of Christian art, or like art from around the world, there are depictions of like spacecraft.
Wow. Yeah.
So I mean, even like some of the stories, like the burning bush, or they were visited by angels. I mean, who's to say where those powers or those deities came from? So I don't know. Especially in the Black culture too, and they're like, aliens, no, that's demonic, and especially if you're in church, and it's like, but as you get older and you start to learn and kind of put two and two together and piece things together, like even a lot of the stories from like you mentioned the Quran, like there was a great flood in the Quran as well, like there was in the Bible. So I feel like a lot of it ties in together. So.
And Black people trip me out because, like we said in the first episode, we are undeniably, I feel like as a whole race, like clairvoyant. Like we're kind of like the elements of this planet. We can feel and see things whether we want to or not.
It's the melanin.
But it's like dating back for like our existence, and we've just been told that is just like taboo. Don't do that. Don't look into it. And then we just kind of pretend like we don't see shadow people, or pretend like we didn't have that premonition before our relative was pregnant, or pretend like we, like we have some, that's a popular one. Oh my gosh.
That happened to my mom. My brother called her when, he was having my niece or whatever. And she was like, it was like writing on the wall. As soon as the phone rang, it was writing on the wall and said it was a baby. She always say that.
So cute. Right. Like it trips me out that we as a race just be like, no, we can't talk about that. But it is us. Like, yeah.
Right.
That's so interesting though that you said like as a kid you didn't think that you had any experiences and stuff. It reminds me of that guy on Ancient Aliens. I can't think of his name. I meant to like look him up, but he made an appearance on Demi Lovato's show Unidentified. He was like showing them like different UFOs and stuff, and they asked him had he ever had an experience, and this man is like he's devoted his life to UFO research, and he's never had an extraterrestrial experience. And I was like, that's so wild.
I know one time, me and my dad, thought we saw something because we used to always go to Bellwood Flea Market. He would sell stuff or whatever. And we just so happened like to look at the same spot in the sky, and it was like almost like a little twinkle, like something metallic.
Yeah.
It's like it was there 1 second and then it wasn't. That's how I remember seeing it. But he saw the same thing. He was like, "Oh, what was that?" Because he already knew I was in the UFOs and stuff like that. So that was kind of exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one more topic I want to bring up before we kind of wrap everything up, because you gave me a book about the Gulf Breeze experiment.
Gulf Breeze sightings.
Sightings. Yeah. Can we go a little bit more into that? Because when you were talking about it last time, I was like, that's crazy that we didn't know about it. You were talking about like actual evidence and stuff like that.
Yeah, because there's a whole book, like it's a whole line of evidence, like photos, reports in Gulf Breeze, Florida. And it was I think it was in the 80s, because probably like between 86 and 89. And it was Ed Walters, and I think his wife was Frances. And she went to the grocery store one night. They were sitting at home. She left for like 7 minutes, and then he was sitting inside, and I think heard a noise or had a feeling, and then went outside. No, he saw the light through his window, so he went outside with his camera, and supposedly he has an image, like a clear image of this ship that was like over top of their block, and then it lifted him up, and he had images of like dogs in his head.
Wow.
That's what he said. Yeah,
the craft lifted him up.
Yeah, the craft lifted him up off the ground. I think he said it was like a sulfur smell, and then it dropped him like after a minute or so, and then it flew off. But like he kept seeing them, and he kept taking pictures. Like I think Polaroid actually came in, brought him a specific camera that he couldn't like alter. He got another picture. Other people reported seeing these crafts. So as a kid, it really fascinated me. And then even I think he was like a realtor or like a contractor, but when he moved out of his home, supposedly they found like a replica of the ship, I guess, that he used to take the pictures. But I feel like it was it was planted. Yeah, okay. Because what they say is that none of the pictures look like that replica that they found in his attic. So who's to really say? But other people claim to have seen the same things. There was one that him and his wife were like under a tree, and they had a picture of it. And you can like actually see like the fire on the inside of it, but they said they lost time. Yeah. I think he was supposedly, he lost some of his memory, but he had like some black sludge or slime under his nails. Like he may have been inside of it. So it's an interesting story when you really get into it.
Sounds creepy.
Yeah, it is.
Like you were like, I was really fascinated. I'm like, if I were a kid reading that, I would throw that book. Like, what the heck? Yeah. He got lifted up and
I don't
what were the dogs? Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Sound like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah, it was. So I think that was the first one. It lifted him off the ground like a beam. And he had images of dogs running through his head as this was happening.
Was there like a significance about the dogs, or was it just?
I don't think he really ever like could put a connection to it. And like even times when the craft wasn't there, he was getting this buzzing in his head. It came another time, and the craft was talking to him. I can't remember what they said it was supposed to say, but then he was seeing images of naked women, white women, black women, slim women, thick women, like naked women. Like literally, this is the story. It sounds crazy, but like it was seeing images of women in his head when he saw the craft. The craft was talking to him. We are, like you can Google all of this. It was telling them something, and then it left. Even he has pictures of like different craft, like the mothership. They're kind of like almost like circular in shape, and they have like windows and lights at the top. There's like different variations in sizes, but they kind of all look. There's one that I remember. The picture is kind of neat, and like you can see almost like glitter around the ship, like there was like some type of essence or something. So, and he said that even like, I think it was that specific picture, like it was in the field behind their house, and you could see smoke coming, almost like you guys. I think you said you saw smoke coming out of one of those you saw.
Yeah.
So.
What kind? It was like
a black looking. I don't know.
It was so faint, but when I noticed it, I feel like I may have mentioned it, and you're like, you saw it too. So I was like, okay, I'm not going crazy. We are seeing like smoke coming out of these things.
But that story always interests me. I think because there was so much evidence. You know, you're always gonna have your skeptics that are like, oh, it's a hoax or the aliens aren't real. But I mean, the government is coming out with too much information now.
Right.
You know,
it's like so much information.
You know, something is going on.
We just recently watched this documentary about like alien cover-ups and stuff like that. I tried to promise myself it wasn't going to get like conspiracy theory on this podcast because I really don't want it to just like disappear. So we're not going to go too far into the documentary. But they were talking about like things that the government did to kind of like stir up the crazy of UFOs. So like on one hand, they're pretending they don't exist. On the other hand, they're the ones doing the cow mutilations, and they're the ones being. If I can remember it, I'll show.
Because see, I know I got into that one time, but I read one story that maybe there was like some type of invisible UFO, but it was living that was doing the mutilations because it would drain the blood of the cows, and they couldn't figure out. It was like a specific like puncture wound. Right.
See, the documentary, they were talking about like, they mentioned that they were doing that the government was doing the mutilations. They also mentioned they were the ones like hiring people that kind of looked scary to be Men in Black and stuff like that.
Yeah, they said they would use deformed people. All different types of stuff. People with no, facial hair, eyebrows and stuff like that with different conditions.
And at the time, I'm sitting here watching and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But then it's like, I don't trust anybody.
The government the whole time. Like the UFOs is just, they know.
Right.
They have the technology.
And it's so weird to me to think about like how massive sightings of like paranormal and extraterrestrial things were in like the 60s and 70s and 80s, and how they kind of like become dormant. And then you're forced to think, oh, was all that stuff like made up? We don't see these things. But then I'm like, okay, on another spiritual level, was it like the time? Was there like an elevation in energy that this stuff could have been happening?
Didn't they say something about in the documentary about that people didn't start having UFO sightings until the U.S. started practicing with nuclear weapons?
Yeah.
True. Yeah, that's true.
And then they said I think they were launching one to do a practice, and a UFO appeared, and like they said they saw a beam shoot at it from one side, and it went to the other side, and it did it, and then the whole thing just fell out the sky.
Yeah,
so I think that's when they started.
That's so
crazy. So then what about like paranormal stuff? Like, okay, so I'm thinking like the Gulf Breeze incident, and then I'm thinking Skinwalker Ranch, and I'm thinking what's another one? The Mothman prophecies. Like stuff like this stuff was like massive, and then you don't see that now. And then like you have the paranormal things. They talk about like exorcisms and like crazy, like the whole Conjuring series is supposed to be based off of a true story or whatever, but like the crazy things that happen in these people's houses, and then you just like you don't hear it anymore. And it's not that I don't believe, but it's like
you think there was like a shift going
like
on,
a shift in our reality.
It was serial killers were very popular.
Yeah, so that's what makes it like to me like a shift in our reality, that things have changed, because you don't hear about, thank God, but you don't hear about serial killers anymore. Like it was like a thing. It was the thing of the time, serial killers and cults and paranormal and extraterrestrials. And now it's just kind of, it happens, but it's also just like, what do y'all think about that?
That's a good question. Well, if you think about like in the 40s and 50s, like how you were talking about, the war and atomic bombs and stuff like that, and how they really started having sightings of like flying saucers. I think it was new in that time. They had Area 51, and so it was kind of like a craze in a way. But these things were actually happening. I don't know. That is a great question though that you say that, and I think now maybe people are more like, I guess maybe don't feel as comfortable.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But you can even go on YouTube, and if you Google like UFO sightings 2022, like you can get a whole list of videos, and a lot of times it looks bogus, but I do it myself,
Yeah.
Like some of the stuff, it looks crazy.
I'm on your side. Yes, I will be watching like UFO stuff, and he's like fake. You can see that's fake. You can see that. I'm like, why are you ruining this?
No, but some of the stuff is really good.
Yeah.
They don't talk about stuff like that.
There was a newer episode of The X-Files, like the reboot that came out, and I remember Mulder. Huh?
Which one was it?
I can't remember the episode, but as Mulder was talking to, it was years ago, I can't remember it, but he's talking to some guy, but he was making the point of like YouTube videos and media and how they put out so much false information and so many fake things that they can sneak like real things in there. So like you will see, there will be like a real UFO video out there, but you won't believe it because it's amongst like thousands of fake sightings and stuff. So.
Yeah. Or even like you have the Calvine photo that just came out a couple of years ago. So there's these two, I don't want to say the wrong country, but these two hikers supposedly took a picture of an authentic UFO, and it's like huge and it's sitting there in the middle of the sky. And you can see like the little bushes and trees, where they were. I think even some mountains in the background, and there's a jet under it. And this picture actually just came out like maybe... I don't even think 10 years ago, because it was like undercover. They had it, and I think they tried to put it in the paper or something happened, so the picture just disappeared. So it's out now, yeah. So I'm sure there are skeptics out there that trying to say that it's not real, but it looks really cool.
I want to see that.
Have to look that up.
Yeah, the Calvine photo.
Yeah.
So, I was going to ask, what do y'all feel about the government? In the early 2000s, saying that all the UFO sightings were top secret military things. They're not UFOs, they're not this and not that. And now all of a sudden, just switching and being like, yeah, they are real. What are y'all views on that?
I feel like something's happening. Like you said, a shift.
Yeah.
Because and then think about it. Shift, even when Trump was in office, I'm not even talking about that. I'm not giving him no glory. I'm telling y'all that now. But even when Trump was in office, he was mentioning the Space Force. So when I'm hearing this, I'm like, the Space Force? Like, what's that? So I feel like something. I don't know. You never know. Even with like the unseen or like spiritual, like paranormal stuff, like you never know what's going on. Something's happening. Yeah,
I will say there, like, yes, you mentioned the shift. So I feel like in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there was like an uproar, like crazy otherworldly things, and then there was like a dormant period. And I definitely feel like there's a shift now. People who are skeptical are like seeing things that they can't explain. So I feel like you said, they might be kind of preparing us for something. I don't think it's a war though.
Not a war, because
TikTok is like, prepare yourself.
Oh God. I don't even want to get into no TikTok.
I stay away from TikTok.
But not a war. I feel like the government, people are very interested. I mean, we're sitting here in the freaking dark talking about it now. So like people are interested in it. It's cool though. It's safe.
Yeah.
But people are interested, and people want to know so much now, and they're like just chomping at the bit for the information, so the government knows that.
Yeah.
And like I said, I feel like something is going on. Like, they were talking about the Space Force, with them releasing all this information and stuff like that. I don't believe it's a war. I believe that they're warning us, and it goes back to you talking about the like atomic bombs and stuff like that with beginning of sighting. So, and even you were talking about earlier when we started about the children in Zimbabwe, how they were at school. This happened like in the 70s. I think it was like 75 or 76. And all the kids were playing like away from the teachers, and all of a sudden all the children took off running to the teachers. And they say that they saw a craft land, and a being came out of the craft, but gave them a message like telepathically saying that, you're in danger. The earth needs to be saved. No, seriously,
okay.
So they had
I didn't know it was like
that
a
story
warning.
actually creeped me out.
Yeah, they had a message, and they all the kids, they drew the same thing. They all said that they heard, I guess inside their heads or however they got the message that what the being looked like. So I don't believe it's a war. I believe, aliens or our star ancestors, I love that. Whoever they are, they've been here. They were here before us. And they're going to be here. And, so, yeah.
I feel like it's ascension, if that makes sense. I feel like we're ascending into a reality where we are more connected to this planet or, our true selves. And there's no denying that feeling. And so it's like, during the pandemic and stuff, they kind of slipped out there like, oh yeah, there are extraterrestrial beings and manifestation is real. All you have to do is ABC, because they know that it's happening. And so it's like I said, when it was a big thing, then it was dormant. Now I feel like it's becoming a big thing again. So like if you're seeing something in the sky and you're a known skeptic, or if you see, if you see a shadow person walking through your house, and you've never seen that before, it's like, oh, it's like, what is this? But if they're giving you that information, like, hey, this is a real thing that's happening, and everybody trusts the government, everybody believes the news. If the news tells you it's happening, then you're listening. So it's like, then it must be real. That's what I think. Because I feel like we're magical beings, whether you believe it or not. I feel like it's a magical time.
Magic is real.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing too. It doesn't always have to be scary, but it'd be scary sometimes.
I feel like because people don't understand and we don't know, and a lot we want to control everything in our world, So when there's something that we can't really get a grasp of,
Yes.
Like,
every time we like engulf on things like this, or embark on things like this, rather, like talking about spiritual things, we things start to happen. Like the night that we filmed our first podcast, we saw like the UFO and
I'm
stuff.
pretty
and
sure
before
tonight
that,
we're going to see something.
Right. Well, that brings me to a story. But before the podcast, so this was like maybe a couple of days before, weird things were happening. But so I was. I was in the shower and I was like listening to music and stuff. I like to listen to like unknown artists. I'm like on Bandcamp listening to their music, and I can hear like a beep, beep, beep. So I thought, you're an.
This is the night of the podcast, or
this was probably like the day before, or like 2 days before. Okay. So I'm like, oh, is there like smoke alarm going off in there? Because you're kind of like you probably record this on your phone, and then when the song ended, I can still hear the beep, beep, beep. So like. I get out of the shower and I'm looking around and I'm hearing this like beeping sound, and it sounded so creepy and so haunting. Like it was like a dying smoke machine. And I'm like looking around, and then I look up and I see the smoke machine and
smoke alarm.
Y'all know I'm talking about. Not a fog machine, you guys. Not to be confused with like
I was with you there. I was like, yes, smoke machine, yes.
We're not on stage.
I look up and the smoke alarm is like going off and it's dying. But the creepy part about it is that we've been living in this house for, I want to say 7 or 6 years. Yeah. I didn't even know we had a smoke alarm because it never went off. I didn't even like, and so
no light or anything.
There's no light.
Really? Oh yeah, because usually they'll beep periodically.
There was nothing. So like I'm like, that is so crazy. So I go to like take it off the wall to like stop it, and it just falls into my hand like it.
Before
like
you touched it?
No, like I touched it, and then it fell. Like it was like just sitting. Like somebody put it there and didn't put it like mounted on the wall. It just kind of like fell down, and so I'm like, that is the weirdest thing. Like I feel like this is meant to be for us. Like that's a really creepy experience. We have been talking about doing this, and then like weird stuff. And then a couple of nights before, a couple of nights before that. So we had a cat that passed away. He was so handsome. I love him so much. But a couple of nights before the smoke alarm thing, I was like sleeping. It was early in the morning. So I mean, you can be a skeptic about it, but I felt like. And we have other cats. I let them outside, but at this particular time, I felt like an indent get on the bed, like at my feet. And so at first, I'm like trying to rationalize, like, oh, did I let the girls out?
I'm so sorry. I feel like we're telling ghost stories. Like my heart is still beating. I'm listening to you. Go ahead, go.
So I feel like it, like I'm like, did I let the girls out? And I was like, yeah, I think I did. So I'm feeling like a thing like at my feet, like circling and stuff, like a pet would, like a cat would. And then I start feeling it like knead at my feet. So I was like, okay, I don't think I let the girls out. And I look down there and there's nothing there. So I was like, oh, this must be Hakeem. That was our cat that passed away. I was like, so he came to like visit. So all of these weird supernatural things were happening.
Oh, don't forget the when we were talking about him and we were driving at the spot where we saw
wild.
Where we saw the red lights at the barn, the same spot up the road from my house. I was driving and I saw something jump into the bushes, and I was like, it looked like a kitten. And so I turn around, I come back to the same spot where we saw the red lights. And there's a gray kitten that looks exactly
like y'all cat that died.
Yes.
And
did you stop?
Yeah, we stopped. She picked him up. We were actually talking about him coming up the road.
Y'all didn't keep him?
Bawling because I feel like we have a lot of healing to do when it comes to Hakeem. Like the first thing that happened, we were like, we don't want what happened to Hakeem to happen to this kid. We named him LeBron. I was like, I don't want.
So
this.
You did keep him?
No. We took him. So there's like this. We did take him home. Our cats did not respond to him well. So there's like this cat community in my old neighborhood. Like they kind of roam the streets and stuff like that. So we took him to like the mother cats there. But it was like a spitting. The only difference was that he had like a red birthmark on his like lip, but he looked identical to our cat. Wow. It was so weird.
And it was a male kitten. Not saying that means anything.
Yeah.
But
So it was just like, I know this sounds silly because he's
Pet
a cat.
Cemetery.
Right, but so in energies and spirits and stuff, I believe that even our pets have been here before. They can be our ancestors. I know that's not. Don't laugh, you guys. But I'm like, I feel like he's always with me, and his presence is like. He encouraged us to do this. But with that, I know that was a really long story. With that being said, so last night was really in particular scary because when we're doing this stuff, crazy stuff happens. This has never happened before. Last night, it probably was 3 a.m. because we were having weird things happen. We were also having weird things happen at 3 a.m., but that's a different story. So last night, I hear like a creak on the floor, almost as though like somebody stepped. And so I opened my eyes because it startled me. And so I'm looking in the corner and I can see like a faint light or like a shadow. So I'm like, it kind of creeped me out, but my eyes weren't focusing because it had just woke me up. And then I hear it again, almost as though it like stepped forward. So I just like grabbed so I just like grabbed the blanket and went back to sleep. But I'm like, not to scare you. When you talk about this stuff,
so if somebody come walk around this corner when y'all leave, I'm coming to Brunswick County. I'm coming to y'all house with my bags.
We're gonna look in our rearview mirror. You're gonna be like running towards the
It's here. There's a person behind the car.
Oh my gosh, this was incredible.
It is. It is incredible. I'm glad y'all invited me to be a part of this program.
You're the whole reason why we did it.
It literally, all these ideas started right here.
It was y'all idea.
Yeah,
It
was like,
you was like, should we do this? I'm like, yes, please.
Like this, you sparked the curiosity for us. We were just talking about it, but you made it feel so comfortable to do it. So, I mean, and then we got really good responses on Facebook about it. People actually want to tune in. So hopefully y'all like this episode as well.
Yes. If you have any questions, comments,
right,
your own experiences,
exactly. I know that's right.
We might have to add him to the team.
And your third host.
I'm telling y'all, I was working. My coworkers was looking at me like I was crazy. They was writing stuff down. I'm telling y'all, this is me.
Before this machine cuts off and tells us that we're over our time, I think we should wrap it up, you guys. This was amazing, and like he said, if you want to be on the podcast, if you have your own stories and stuff, please come chill with us. We are awkward, but
yes, we get shy.
We get shy, okay. But I can edit the shy out of it. So
no one is perfect.
But I'm gonna close out. Sleep tight. Don't let the man at the edge of your bed bite.
Whoa.